Hey, I'm Chris from Prima Coffee Equipment, and I'm just about to brew with the Walkure pour-over coffee maker. Walkure is, like I said, a pour-over brewer, but it's totally unique. It might be unlike anything that you've seen before. It has a flat bottom filter that's actually comprised of 2 stacked porcelain grids, and has a dispersion piece on the top that basically controls your flow direction and flow rate. So as I prepare to brew with this, just ground about 21 grams of coffee, and I'm going to add about 350 grams of water to that. I'll show you my grind setting here. It's medium, a little on the coarse side perhaps. It's a little bit finer than, or sorry, a little bit coarser than that which I would use for, say, a Kalita or Chemex single serving of either of those. And you can go surprisingly fine with this brewer because of a thing called cake filtration. Now, surprisingly enough, the porcelain grid on the bottom of this guy isn't what does most of the filtering work here. It's not the primary filtering medium. Rather, it just suspends a bit of coffee, and then the coffee itself acts as a filtering agent. So, the coffee develops this cake and filters out fines from above it. So it's actually a very, very effective means of filtering and produces a surprisingly clean cup. So for this coffee, which is actually Nicaraguan coffee from Finca Los Congos, roasted by Quills Coffee, shooting for brew temperature just above 200 degrees. It's about a week off roast, and a fairly light roasted coffee too. So I'm shooting for about 200 degrees, and like I said, going for 21 grams of coffee and 350 grams of water. I'm gonna use about 10% my total water volume for pre-infusion here, so about 35 grams I just poured on there. And I'll check it out underneath. This here is actually the dispersion piece that I'm pouring into. Has 6 holes in the bottom, so there are 6, not necessarily 6 even streams, but 6 places where the water comes out. It's distributed over the coffee pretty easily. The coffee is bloomed nicely. It's pretty evenly saturated. I'm going to go ahead and start my timer here. I'm going to keep on pouring. So I'm just pouring right into the middle of the dispersion piece here. As you can see, there really isn't a very specific pouring pattern that you need. A slow flow rate is nice so that you can draw out the brew time, considering the grind is a little on the coarser end. But you don't need to go in any intricate patterns or anything, and really you don't even necessarily need a kettle that can pour this slowly. If you have enough control with a larger, small spouted kettle, then you're totally fine without a gooseneck pouring kettle like this guy. It does help me draw out the brew time though, and I appreciate it for that reason. So I'm just pouring right into the middle of the dispersion piece here. Now, if you were to look over the top of this, you would see that there are bubbles starting to come up into the dispersion piece here. You can see a little brown bubbles come up, and this means that the volume inside is just touching up the bottom underneath the dispersion piece. Usually when I get to that point, I let it rest a little bit, let it calm down so it doesn't overflow too much. I might give that 10 seconds or so, and then we can keep going. I'm about 230 grams of water right now. Again, my target is 350. I generally hope to hit that right around the 3-minute mark. And after I stop pouring at 3 minutes, it might take another 30 to 45 seconds usually to drain all the way through. Now, of course, all brewing parameters are important to take into consideration when you're brewing, even with this guy. But there are some that are a little more highlighted. So for example, in this with Walkure, your dose and your grind setting are of special importance. You're going to notice really wide swings in brewing time and in extraction just by changing those a little bit. So it's really important to consider dose and how it considers bed depth, as well as your grind, which is going to affect your flow rate with this brewer. I mentioned that I'm using kind of a medium coarse grind, and really before I adjust much else, I like to consider adjusting my dose. So for example, the last The last time we brewed this, we used about 21 grams of coffee, and I wanted it to go through a little bit quicker. My brew time was a little over 4 minutes instead of the 3.5 that I wanted. So instead of adjusting a grind, which is a lot of folks' first thought when they're trying to adjust their time, I decided to adjust the dose instead. And I'm probably going to notice a pretty dramatic difference with this one. Let's peek underneath. So our water level is right around here. The slurry is just up underneath the dispersion piece, and it's draining slowly. It's been about 3 minutes since the end of our pre-infusion, so we're looking at probably finishing about 3:45 total brew time, maybe 4 minutes. Right about 350 grams of water here. Now, the resulting cup for this brew, it's surprising. It's not what you would expect. A lot of folks, when I talk to them, they expect it's going to be very full-bodied. It's going to be very silty, even a lot like a French press. That's not what I noticed, though. It's really surprising. Because of that very effective means of filtration, cake filtration, the cup is pretty clean, but at the same time, because there's no paper or cloth in between, it's very aromatic. It's still very flavorful, a bit oily. Very nice cup of coffee. Still being pretty clean. It is a little bit on the full-bodied side, so if you don't like a cup of coffee to really have this significant, noticeable weight in your mouth, it might not be the brew for you, but we really like it, and the cup is surprisingly clean and tasty. All right, so that water is draining through the last of the grounds there. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it off and pour it here. So overall, the Walkure is a very user-friendly coffee maker. Doesn't require a lot of precise skill. Once you have your particular recipe that you enjoy, you're going to get a great cup of coffee, very repeatable, consistent results. We really like it. The Walkure Coffee Maker. Thanks for watching.